ton of things that Bernie Sanders represents. He represents peace in the Middle East. He's opposed to many wars, 90 to 95% of these costly and destructive and ridiculous wars. So there's many reasons to. He also really likes the farmers. In fact, if you're a farmer and you don't vote for Bernie Sanders, he's going to do so much for farmers. He's going to do so much for the small family farms, not the big corporate conglomerates. Hey, I think they'll probably be okay too. But he's got just the list of what he's doing for farmers just goes on and on and on, non-stop. So it's, if you're a farmer and you don't vote for Bernie Sanders, that's probably because you don't like yourself and other farmers. You don't care about your own self-interest. You don't care about your own economics. So anyways, there's just a ton of reasons to vote for Bernie Sanders. Not just, just free stuff, free child care, free health care, free education. So that gives you more freedom overall, because you're not worried about being shackled with the debt. People go get an operation, then they're bankrupt. I mean, how's that good for freedom? You go to, college to get yourself education, and either they are a crappy school, and they fuck you over, and then you're saddled with a shit ton of debt, or, there's a number of things that could happen. So, that would be bad. So I think that free health care, free college, and it's not free, right? It's taxpayer. I understand that. Anyways, Bernie Sanders is going to get us a 21st century Bill of Rights. So I've been thinking about what can I do in order to help Bernie Sanders out. So he can come over with the overall vision, but what can we do as regular citizens, as people, as what can we do to help Bernie out? So he wants a 21st century Bill of Rights. So that means he wants to pass some more freedoms. I've compiled all the freedoms that I have because, that's what people do. And I've listed 23 more rights and freedoms that I think could be added to the Constitution currently, and this would increase the freedoms that we have already. We have a lot, but there's also, there's a lot of human rights that we don't have. Look at the United Nations Charter. We don't have all those rights. So these are the 23 rights that I would add to the Bill of Rights. I would add a right to privacy. I would establish the rule of law. I would add a right to marriage. I would add a right to find a family, to found a family, to start a family. I would add a right to sue any corporation or government for injury in all 50 states via federal courts to repeal the 11th Amendment, which, of course, any freedom-loving American would not give a flying fuck about the 11th Amendment. Freedom from war and crime, so freedom from war and crime. Yes, we should be free from war and crime. Freedom from unfair competition and monopolies. Monopolies, that's so anti-capitalistic, right? Somebody just comes in and buys the whole board and then bankrupts everything. I mean, that's not fair, right? Just like It's a Wonderful Life, that Mr. Fats or whoever that guy was, he owned the entire town. Well, that's not fair competition. That's unfair. So that's two things: freedom from unfair competition, freedom from monopolies, right to the access to information. I made sure that all these rights and freedoms weren't for property. I want water. I feel like rainwater. I want to do something with water. Because if you don't have water, get yourself some water. It doesn't matter what anybody says or what's written on the document. You're dying of thirst. Get yourself some water by any means necessary. Get yourself some water. So, right to the access to information, I think that's important. Right to one's own body, right to leisure, and the right to work. You get the right to play and the right to work, organize, unionize, the right to strike. Then the freedom of thought, opinion, belief, right to referendum, initiative, and recall, and the right to fair elections. We don't have all these rights and freedoms. Isn't that crazy? We don't have rights and freedoms. We don't have a right to our own body. We don't have a right to work or to play. We got freedom of speech, but not freedom of opinion, belief, thought, right to referendum, initiative, recall, democratic tools, right to fair elections. How come that wasn't put in there? We must have free and fair elections, right? So, right to one's own body, the right to get married, the right to have your own family, the right to sue a corporation or government that, fucks with you. Freedom from crime. Crime, I mean, that's the whole basis of laws, right? So fuck the criminals, fuck the crime. Freedom from war. war, if we don't put an end to war, war is going to put an end to us. So we should do all that we can to end war completely. Not just terrorism. We need to end terrorism, and we need to end war. Freedom from unfair competition, monopoly, found a family, rule of law, right to privacy. All these things. So the right to privacy, you would think we would have that. In fact, that's what Roe versus Wade was about, the right to privacy. So 1973, they went ahead and combined like the 4th Amendment and then the 5th and then the 14th and the 15th. They combined all these amendments, and they said when you combine these amendments, you can get a right to privacy. And so there's a right to privacy is inferred, but we don't actually have an outright right to privacy. And the whole, Roe, it's not even about Roe versus Wade. That just sounds like a freedom that should have already been included. So right to your own body, right to be, freedom from crime, right to privacy, right to have fair elections, right to work, organized, unionized, strike, fault opinion, belief, referendum, initiative, recall, leisures, one's own body, access to information, unfair competition, monopolies, war, and crime. Repeal the 11th Amendment, sue any government or corporation that injures you, establish the rule of law. That's that the law everybody must abide by the law. So they always take the law and always use it. So it was Sherman Antitrust Act was used against Eugene Debs, not against monopolies, but against these labor people who were unionizing it. That was a monopoly. A union was a monopoly. That was not the point of the Sherman Antitrust Act. And so the rule of law, it means that if you're a police officer, if you're part of the 1%, the ruling class, if you're in the ruling circles, if you have power or if you're wealthy, everybody must abide by the rule of law. You're not allowed to murder, steal, rape. Nobody can do those things. So everybody has to abide by the rule of law. And so that's, that should be written in the Constitution. That should be written down somewhere. And that's the 23 more rights and freedoms that I've come up with for Americans. If you have any more to add, these are ones that I don't believe we have now. So if you have any more to add, please feel free to let me know. Okay? Peace.